Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Journey into Nix. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler and Zach Hill. And we are just about underway in our feature match area. We have Josh Utter-Leyton versus Jared Boettcher. This is an incredibly important match for both of these players, Randy.
Absolutely. The winner essentially clinches top 8. You know, Raptor, the reigning player of the year, would love to get back up toward platinum status. Jared Boettcher, looking pretty good for Rookie of the Year, would essentially, I think, clinch Rookie of the Year with a top 8 here. So, huge match. The bad news, though, Jared Boettcher is only revealing 4 cards to that turn 1 Thoughtseize. Sorry, 5 cards.
It is 5 cards,
5 cards.
And it looks like favored Hoplite.
He's predicting
Is
which
the
card.
Yeah, that's the prediction from Jared. And he was right. So Josh Utter-Leyton falls for the bait there and takes the favorite Hoplite, or maybe it was just the right thing to do.
Wow, and with that island from Boettcher, I mean, that was a very, very good 5-card hand, but right now just getting ripped apart.
It is. It's getting completely torn apart. Here is that island. We see.
The greatest hand, too.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jared said, I had the greatest hand, too. But unfortunately for him,
yeah,
he is going to be reduced to 0 creatures in hand, making those ordeals of Thassa a lot worse than they were. And Josh passes the turn back. Josh has a pretty nice grip. Ashiok, Nightmare Weaver, Courser, Krufix, Kiora, the Crashing Wave, and Silence the Believers. Jared plays his land and passes. And here's a key card for Josh. It's going to allow him to cast most of his spells, provided he has another land in hand here.
Yeah, he doesn't. Jared actually has more land than Josh now.
All right, well, let's see if Josh can fix that. Courser of Krufix, well, doesn't reveal land, but it's more gas. Once Josh finds the mana, he is going to have a grip of powerful spells to deal with Jared's, well, lack of a board state here.
I mean, on a 5-card hand, if you look at Boettcher's sequence, he would have had favored Hoplite into Ordeal, into either another Ordeal, drawing 4 cards, or Brima's King of Erexos. So, I mean, things going about as well as Jared could have hoped on a mulligan to 5, but Thoughtseize just showing its power and block just as it has in Standard.
Concedes to Ashiok.
And that's going to do it.
I am not interested in letting you see any more of my deck.
So that's a quick one there. Josh Utter-Leyton has to breathe a sigh of relief to get that win. I'm not going to call it a free win, but about as easy as they come down the stretch here at the Pro Tour. We're going to bring you more action after these messages.
Play Magic at a store near you every Friday. Earn Planeswalker points and battle against your friends in Friday Night Magic. May's FNM promo is Tormented Hero. Visit wizards.com/FNM for more information. You've watched the Pro Tour. How about playing on the Pro Tour? Qualifiers for Pro Tour Magic 2015 are going on now around the world, with winners earning both an invitation and airfare to Portland this August. Visit wizards.com/PTQ for more information.
All right, why don't we head over to one of our side matches here with Reed Duke versus Guillaume Afotapa, another very important match. You'll see that theme sort of come out here down the stretch as the top 8 is starting to take form already, Randy.
Yeah, we basically have 6 win-and-ins this round. 4 of them are clean. One of them, Chapin, can play Dream Crusher. One of them, Watanabe, can, not quite clinch. But of the clean win-and-ins, that includes Reed Duke versus Guillaume Afotapa. Reed Duke had a win-and-in last round, essentially, lost it. I mean, to miss top 8, Reed Duke has to end this tournament loss. I mean, he is a third of the way there, but I would not be betting against Reed Duke. It's a tough road, though. Here he's playing Guillaume.
Also, he's never been in this position before to be, winning in for the top 8 at the PT. Well, I shouldn't say that. He might have been in this exact position before. I don't know that for a fact, but this is not a position you find yourself in very often. And I'm sure he's put a lot of pressure on himself to pick up that first Pro Tour top 8. He is considered one of the best in the game today. He's currently ranked 2nd in the world. It does feel like it's about time for Reed to get his first top 8.
Yeah, you know who's cheering for Guillaume Afotapa here, though?
Who's that?
Fellow Frenchman Jeremy Dezani. I mean, with the top 8 here, Reed not only gets that monkey off his back, he also makes a run at Player of the Year.
Ah, that is another interesting thing. One of our side matches as well has Yuki Ichikawa playing against Jamie Park.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Park on a savage comeback trail. He's really kind of parlayed his last few GPs into this Pro Tour, and now in contention for top 8 here.
Lots of people jumping on the Jamie Park bandwagon on Twitter, although I agree with the one comment I saw. It should be a cart. It's the Jamie Park cart with a K.
Well, I mean, he has been trying so hard, though. I mean, I've been PTQing up there with Jamie. He's hit every single event. He's been play testing nonstop, so he's earned this slot back at this Pro Tour.
So Kiora, the crashing wave on the battlefield here. Guillaume is going to reveal a second brain maggot off of his Courser of Crewfix.
Yeah, Guillaume's deck is not one that we've seen a ton of in the feature match area. It's a Constellation deck. So he's got as many enchantment creatures as he could cram in there. Of course, Courser of Crewfix, everybody's got that one, but he's got Eidolon of Blossoms, he's got Doomwake Giant to really take advantage of all those enchantment creatures, including the brain maggots that we see.
And actually, this Constellation deck, even though we haven't seen it a lot in the feature match, was, I think, the most popular deck on day one.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been play testing it. You know, Doomwake Giant, maybe like what's going on. They're really well positioned against Elspeth. A lot of powerful cards in the deck. I mean, you know, so it was clearly good enough for Wafo Tapa.
Yeah, Doomwake Giant able to clear away all of the Elspeth tokens the turn it enters the battlefield, potentially leaving Elspeth open to an attack from whatever other ground force you happen to have on the battlefield. And that's something we don't see that a lot. Elspeth generally is a very stabilizing card, and there's not a lot of ways to kill her unless you have flyers, which of course is why we've seen a lot of Prognostic Sphinx as well this weekend. But first,
Doomwake Giant also a 4/6 creature on
yes,
its own.
It's
oh,
massive.
by the way.
So I think it's Drown in Sorrow that's hiding underneath that brain maggot there for Guillaume Afotapa. Reed Duke with Kiora on 4 counters. Let's make that 3 counters, Reed Duke. If he can put up a nice blocker here, this could be pretty good for him. And I think we're going to see a Prognostic Sphinx. There it is.
I would not necessarily be able to resist the temptation to tick Kiora up to 5 and start realistically trying to threaten ultimate, but I guess he needed the extra land drop.
Well, yeah, and also the Courser. I don't think he had a blocker that he could play without getting that extra land drop, and Courser's just going to eat 2 of those loyalty counters, so you don't win that race.
Sure. I mean, I was assuming you'd target it with the Kiara, but yeah, you're right. You still get hit with the brain maggot, so you can't ultimate next turn.
So a little patience here from Reed Duke. All right, why don't we head back to our main match here? We had a really quick game, but let's head back over to Josh Utter-Leyton versus Jared Boettcher. Looks like they're ready to roll here. Hopefully, fewer mulligans for these players.
Do you like that deck? Do you like that deck? Yeah.
Guillaume on the way out, by the way. Hero's Downfall forces a tap on Prognostic Sphinx, which allowed the Courser and the Maggot to kill Kiora.
I think they're all very underwhelmingly not as powerful as they should be.
Start. I think this deck's really good against the bad decks, and a lot of people did play bad decks.
You guys will have an extra minute. Okay.
Josh Utter-Leyton.
I hope we have more than that because we had to wait.
Classic Raptor, by the way. He said he thinks his deck is good against the bad decks, and a lot of people played bad decks. So.
Yeah, I don't think we're on that clock at all.
Judge making sure that they know how much extra time they have for waiting. Jared says, I don't think that's going to matter here. I mean, remember, we're already in game 2 here. We're just underway in round 15 here in Atlanta, and
I'll go to 19.
That one was quick. Jared's going to go down to 19 to ensure his turn 2 Battle-Wise Hoplite. A fine start if there ever was one. Josh Utter-Leyton passes the turn back.
Interestingly, not using Bile Blight at sorcery speed, which theoretically could open him up to God's Willing if he was intending to cast it this turn.
Jared looks like he has no intention of walking into anything of the sort. He's going to play Hero of Erois, no land drop,
18-0.
and pass a turn back. So Josh Utter-Leyton, does he have, the one thing that he could definitely have is Drown in Sorrow. There it is right there.
One time it's good.
Drown in Sorrow, and Jared says it's the one time it's good. What does he mean by that, Randy?
Well, usually he can get his creatures up above 2 toughness. I mean, Drown in Sorrow certainly has the potential to sweep a bunch of small creatures away, but Jared rarely opens himself up to getting 2 for 1. Just the way his deck plays out doesn't come up all that often.
So he had basically a 1-turn window to get a 2 for 1 off of his Drown, and Josh said, I'll take that.
Oh, yeah, Josh is going to pounce on that. And Boettcher, I mean, doesn't normally even have to give the window, but the lack of a land meant he couldn't even leave up like an Ajani's Presence or anything like that.
Right, he's got a Johnny's Presence in his hand.
Right.
He just didn't have the mana he needs to cast it. And there's that 3rd land, but it's just a turn too late.
You're winning yet again.
So Kiora is going to put under a banishing light here, so that's a nice clean answer to Kiora. It means that the Battle-Wise Hoplite doesn't attack this turn because it wouldn't have done any damage.
That bubbled.
Jared's kind of calling the shots here.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about when you play an aggro deck like this. You know, we've seen a lot of very extended, drawn-out games between Naya and Bug, etc. With a deck like Bug, if you're able to blunt the assault quickly from a deck like Blue-White Heroic, game's going to end pretty fast.
Yeah, it feels like Jared is way, way behind here and doesn't have a ton of ways to get back, but he's got 4 cards in his hand, just played another one there, so he certainly has some resources to work with here.
He's way, way behind. Let's be clear. Sylvan Caryatid and Courser of Krufix make it really hard for an honest 2/2 to make a living.
At the same time, he does have Eidolon of Countless Battles in his hand, which is exactly the type of card you want in a situation like that. I mean, he can throw it on his worst creature, has to bait a removal spell, still has a relatively large creature, and he's got a Johnny's Presence if he has some mana to work with to work around the removal. That said, I mean, Kiora on top of the deck's going to neutralize the biggest creature. I mean, Courser of Krufix kind of doing what it does, just taking over games if he gets a couple more draw steps.
Yeah, this is an interesting position here for Josh Utter-Leyton as well. He's trying to decide if he should block and which creature with which to block. He's at 17. I mean, he can take the hit.
Yeah, that's what he decided to do.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's tempting to block with the Caryatid. That could take him off of his second blue mana source potentially, though. And, you know, it's hard to cast Pronosis Sphinx without it.
Yeah, and with a deck like this Blue-White Heroic deck, it's not a question of does he have a trick. It's a question of which trick does he have.
Exactly.
In this case, it's a Johnny's Presence.
Yeah, he's not dead. I was just saying he's behind.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. He is definitely behind. And also, Josh can, I mean, just afford to take some damage. I mean, the life gain from Courser or Krufix, he's going to get some of it back. And it's not as though the Blue-White Heroic deck has, like, you know, burn spells. So, you know, he can afford to drop relatively low on life. And, I mean, 15 is a lot of life points.
All right, so here's Kiora, the Crashing Wave for Josh Utter-Leyton. Going to put that Battle-Wise Hoplite in a bubble, meaning that it's not going to have damage dealt to or by it till Josh's turn.
Update from the back table, by the way. Namsung Wook up a game on Pat Chapin. So trying to become king of the hill. We may have Namsung Wook go into the top 8 as our king of the hill if he finishes that match.
You can see him behind there with that crazy shirt on. It's got to be part of the equation. All right, so here it is, Eidolon of Countless Battles. But Bile-Blight is going to take down the target of that Eidolon. Now, Jared knew that that was in his hand. That was revealed from the Courser of Krufix, so that wasn't a big surprise. Instead, he just gets a 2/2 Eidolon here. And yeah, Josh Utter-Leyton is just sort of burning through the top of his library here. And you mentioned it a second ago, Zach, he keeps gaining 1 life, gaining 1 life, gaining 1 life, and those just add up eventually to turns.
Right. I mean, we see here why there aren't that many aggro decks doing that well. A, there's a lot of removal, but B, it is just very hard to power through Courser of Krufix. I mean, you get your opponent down to, you know, 10, 12 life points, or okay, maybe a final push here, but I mean, Josh all the way back up to 16, up something like 4 cards, and he's able to sit behind and just protect a Planeswalker, which it doesn't matter how big you're able to make your biggest heroic threat. Kiora is just going to, like you said, put it in a bubble and deal with it that way.
And that's exactly what Josh Utter-Leyton does. He bubbles the Eidolon of Countless Battles and passes the turn back to Jared. He's got Hero's Downfall in his hand. And you just got to feel like you're helpless here if you're Jared. I mean, his whole game plan is to start suiting up his creatures. He's not going to play into it here. He's got double Hawkblight and in a Johnny's Presence in his hand, just not a lot he can do. And it really feels like the pendulum has swung all the way to Josh Utter-Leyton's side. Now, he isn't actively pressuring Jared to finish the game, but he's one big threat away from doing that. Also, Kiora, the Crashing Wave ticking upwards, can get the job done if he's able to get it to ultimate as well. It's only -5, which is next turn. If you're counting, that's a second Courser of Krufix. The shields, they are up. Jared Boettcher has no way to get his creatures through the blockers. They're 9/9s, Jared. Not good news for you, buddy.
Good old pick up and read.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what Jared's thinking about right now. He's thinking about his tiebreakers. He's thinking about what happens if I lose this match. Well, I mean, what happens in 5 more minutes when I have lost this match? Can I win in next round? Answer, by the way, his tiebreakers are right on the edge. You know where his tiebreakers are?
Where's
They're
that?
in perfect position for him to finish 9th again.
Oh, no.
I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but
Has anybody ever back-to-back 9th?
I don't know.
I'm
They
sure
probably
someone
didn't come back if they did. That was probably about enough magic for
I mean,
them.
the fact that he's a rookie, though, like, he gets to go to Worlds. He gets to win Rookie of the Year. It's not as bad as, you know, somebody else getting a 9th.
And there we go, an ultimate down in the feature match area. Kiora, the crashing wave, has created an emblem, and we're going to start seeing 9-9 Krakens in the form of.
Do I have to?
Is that a Webster emblem?
It
Well,
is.
it was. It was. Adam Kopka in 2009, back-to-back.
That's Koska.
Wow.
Adam Koska in 2009 had back-to-back 9th. Thank you, Rich Hagan.
Rich
for
Hagan,
that.
the statistician.
He just peeled that off. Meanwhile, a 9-9 Kraken hits the battlefield, and you can see above Josh Utter-Leyton's library, and it's just a slow head shake here for poor Jared. Nothing he can do from this position. He is going to have to now try to overcome multiple 9-9s every single turn, and he just doesn't have the tools to get through that kind of an offensive.
I mean, you know, Jared's board is just respectable enough to look like he could power through this. I mean, that, you know, but the thing is, like, it's not just one 9-9 he has to deal with. You know,
Right.
it's going to happen every turn. You know, he almost can grow his Eidolon to be big enough. He's got some creatures, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot of Krakens getting summoned forth from the deep.
Yeah, and Josh Utter-Leyton, you know, supremely patient. He's never attacked with anything this whole game, just sitting back. He knew his game plan. His game plan is to make Krakens. Those will finish off Jared. He doesn't have the tools in his deck to deal with 4, 5, 9-9s over the course of the game. And remember, Josh, especially post-board, like he just says, go here, not going to attack with it. He gets to have removal spells off the top of his deck the whole while he's making the Krakens.
Back table update, by the way. Guillaume Wafo-Tapa up a game on Reed Duke. That's a big one.
This is getting to be
Yeah,
a little nail-bitery down the stretch.
Agree.
Game 2 scry.
Reed Duke, one of the most popular players on the Pro Tour as well. I know he's got a lot of fans rooting for him.
Yes. I mean, hat tip to Josh Utter-Leyton here, too. He's had what he says is a disappointing Pro Tour season to this point. I mean, it'd be hard to be too disappointed. I mean, he's like 11th in the world or something, 13th in the world. But by his standards, he's had a disappointing season. He really wanted, you know, I think he's very happy to sort of get back to the top 8 where he has been in the past.
Absolutely. I had a chance to chat with him over in our news desk area, and he said, look, I mean, it is what it is. That's what he said, but he's like, yeah, but I'm not happy with it. I'd like it to be better. All right, so here's a Kraken. Getting in for the battles. Jared's just going to take it.
Yeah, I think so. You can't throw away your creatures here. I mean, if by some miracle you can pull this game out, you're going to need every single creature on the battlefield at your disposal. I'm just laughing at Josh. Only a few people in the world can say, yeah, I'm 13th in the world right now. Game has however many million players. Kind of disappointed,
Little
though.
bummed.
Little bummed.
I mean, he did come off of a Player of the Year. He set the bar really high
Yeah.
at like 67 pro points or something in a year.
Last
Right.
year, number 1.
So here's Kraken number 2. And Jared finds Stratus Walk. Josh Utter-Leyton, though, is at 18 life. Like, this just not in striking range. I'm sure Jared's deck, like you said a second ago, Zach, he's got a bunch of creatures out, and it probably can come up with a lot more damage than it looks like at first sight, but not 18.
Well, against some hands, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of
exactly.
hands, there's one that's extended, and Josh Utter-Leyton has won his win-in match, and he's looking great for top 8.
Yeah. No, all he needs is a draw. He might even get in with a loss. Honestly, he probably would get in with a loss. His tiebreakers are pretty good, having 8-0'd yesterday. So all but clinched, all but mathematically clinched for Josh Utter-Leyton.
All right, let's head back over to the Reed Duke Guillaume Wafo-Tapa match. I believe that's where we're going, though they do seem to be shuffling at the moment. Now, you said, Randy, that Guillaume is up a game.
Yeah, Guillaume's
that
up a
match?
game. They're shuffling for game 2. I think the only game that's actually in progress right now is Chapin and Namsung Wook.
Like, all right, that's down to no cards in my hand.
Does seem to be the case.
Jamie and his backwards cap over there in the top right.
All right, let's move over
Judge,
to the Patrick Chapin
I just wanna
Namsung.
confirm. If I killed Brain Maggot with the ability on the stack, yes. Will I kill Brain Maggot with the ability on the stack? Yes. Will I kill Brain Maggot with the ability on the stack? Yes. Will he still see my hand? Yes. And will he get a card?
Confirming that Brain Nuggets does not look like Mesmeric Fiend, or does not work like Mesmeric.
Pat reveals his hand for about a third of a second.
I think there's a Thoughtseize in the graveyard that may have already had a peek
So
there.
Nam's already seen it.
Either that or Nam has photographic vision. All right, so there's a Thoughtseize going in the other direction, though. It's going to reveal, is that Herald of Torment? Yes, it is. Also an Elspeth.
Reaper.
A Reaper of the Wilds. And a
Silence
of Believers. Okay. Nice hand here for Nam.
Every single card in Patrick's deck is just an awesome kill you card.
Yeah, Namsung Wook's deck is actually, he describes it as Junk Enchantress. It's black, green, white. It's not quite Constellation, but it does have the Eidolon of Blossoms.
Huh.
So yeah, it's kind of in between the two versions of this we've seen before. It's, I don't think it's a Constellation deck unless it's got Doomwake Giant in it, which he does not run, but he does have the Eidolon just for value, just because, you know what, Brain Maggot, Courser, Herald of Torment, these are all enchantment creatures that all get card advantage off the Eidolon of Blossoms.
And Banishing Light, too, also drawing a card.
So Nam played Elspeth there. Didn't last long. Hero's Downfall takes down Elspeth, but does leave the 3 tokens behind. And right now, Patrick Chapin's on 5 lands. And nothing to do with them. I know he's got Elspeth in his hand plus something.
Not that often that you see these junk decks or these base green decks short on lands between Courser and Caryatid, but that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
That's right, and Patrick Chapin did find a land off the top there. He's going to have to take a point of damage, it looks like.
Can I take 2? I'm at 8.
Take 2 points.
He takes 2 points of damage, excuse me, but he does get Elspeth on the battlefield against no Elspeth on the battlefield and gets his soldier tokens. That's going to drop Chapin down to 8 life. Grand Prix Melbourne champion Namsung Wook. We got to watch him play mono black at that standard tournament.
His tiebreakers, by the way, are not good. So he's out with a loss and in with a win.
And remember, Chapin's in.
Chapin's already in. Chapin's job now is to block for his teammates. There are Pantheon team members sitting on X and 4 who would love an extra X4 to get in because Chapin crushed somebody's dreams. Nothing against Namsung Wook. Those are just the dreams that happen to have been put in front of Patrick. I don't know, though. Namsung Wook's looking pretty good to me.
I mean, yeah, there's a big Eidolon there. Chapin only, I think, at 8 or 6 life. So
is it
Herald of Torment? Oh, he's at 8.
Yeah,
so that Herald of Torment kills in 2 attacks if he's able to bestow it. I could also just, I guess he's a mana away from hard casting it right now. But yeah, I mean, Chapin, with Elspeth on the board, but by no means is victory assured. And if he hard casts the Herald, that means that it dodges Elspeth's ultimate.
He also gets second ability. He gets to draw a card off of Eidolon of Blossoms here and just sort of keep the chain going. Now he finds a Scry land, scries a card to the bottom.
This deck looks awesome. All the card drawing is green now. Do I have to start playing green decks?
I was going to say,
is that
Randy,
how the world works now?
Is this an identity crisis? Is that, well, we had to make green good. We had to make mid-range a thing. But, Lauer's still making cards. Yeah. So.
All right, why don't we go hop over to Reed Duke? This one looks like it's going to take a few turns here. There's an Elspeth to deal with. I want to see Reed Duke versus Guillaume off Otapa. Guillaume, he's just always, I almost take it for granted that whenever he's here at the Pro Tour, he's floating around at the top tables and in contention. But here he is once again, and we're underway here. Up a game against Reed Duke. Both players sitting on 11 and 3. Guillaume from France. Reed Duke of the United States currently second on our top 25 pro rankings.
Yeah, these guys, by the way,
first top 8.
Second and third right now in the standings. They have the best tiebreakers in their group. So they have the best tiebreakers basically in the room. Reed has the best tiebreakers of anybody other than Pat Chapin. So the winner of this match is all but into the top 8. The loser's not out, though. It's not a losing out. It is a winning in. The winner basically has a backup. The loser can win next round.
Reed's deck, you look at his hand, it looks like he's playing a completely different deck. He's like some sort of blue-black control deck now with multiple counter spells, removal. We see Feast of Dreams again. Really interesting hand from Reed.
Now, how good is Ashiok here, Zach? It looks like that's Reed's main way to win currently in his hand. Otherwise, he's got a bunch of permission and controlling removal-type cards. Is Ashiok going to do a lot of work in this matchup?
I think it's pretty good purely because Guillaume's creature's power to toughness ratio is not that fantastic, meaning that it's harder for him to threaten planeswalkers. And because of all the value creatures, Ashiok getting cards like Brain Maggots or Courser of Krufix is kind of exactly what Ashiok wants to be doing.
Okay, so Guillaume, he agrees with you. He takes Ashiok. Reed places land and passes the turn back, and Guillaume kicks things off here with Brain Maggot. What a disgusting card. And it's going to get dissolved.
I have a lot of respect for just the opening of Thoughtseize into Brain Maggot. I mean,
I bet you Reed does too. That's a lot of heat there. Reed's on the play though, so he's able to work around it a little bit. Guillaume off the top of plays his land for the turn and ships it back. Reed has no 4-drop either here though.
Reed really leaning on those counter spells. I mean, he's basically just hoping to draw lands until he can cast Prognostic Sphinx and just 1-for-1 Wafo until then.
So Wafo Tapa looks like he's got another Thoughtseize in his hand waiting here. This looks very controlling, this matchup, based on the player's hands. He's going to start with Courser of Krufix and see if that gets hit by anything, and if he can hit another land. He does. Unfortunately, it's not Thoughtseize mana.
Interestingly, Reed opting not to dissolve Courser. You'd use his second counterspell, but he gives Guillaume a look at a free card there.
Go.
And he hit it.
Right.
Yeah, he had Feast of Dreams in hand, and I think he figured, after having seen it, that this is probably the best target for it, and he can save his dissolve for something more important down the line. Reed misses a land drop here, passes the turn back. Guillaume does the exact same thing.
Guillaume's choosing not to cast Eidolon of Blossoms here because he wants to draw one more land and Thoughtseize first.
Right, yeah, he opted not to cast Thoughtseize either. It looks like he's really trying to set up kind of a combo finish, making sure he hits the most relevant card.
All right, Reed the Bones for Reed Duke. Draws a couple of cards, loses a couple of life, and get those land drops flowing again.
You know that is Reed's nickname, right? Reed the Bones Duke.
Nobody calls him that.
Randy with the windmill slam, just
shutting that down.
Right out of the ring.
15.
If I start calling him that, do I get the...
Sure.
We'll ignore you.
I was actually quoting an LSV conversation. Had you not heard this conversation before?
I get all my good ideas from LSV.
All right, so Guillaume Wafo-Tapa does go now for his Eidolon of Blossoms. It gets Bile-Blighted, but he still gets to draw a card. He hits a swamp and plays Thoughtseize, revealing Drown in Sorrow, Unravel the Aether, land, Prognostic Sphinx, which I'm assuming is going to be what he takes, unless he has something he really wants to resolve, in the case he would take the Dissolve. No, it's a Sphinx.
Yeah, there's enough card advantage in this format that if you can just strand your opponent with answers in hand and find something like a Courser, or even find... I mean, even just a Brain Maggots to get ahead, or Eidolon of Blossoms, it can really do some damage.
Yeah, neither player has any non-land permanents on the board right now, so nobody's moving this game state in their direction, but they're certainly jockeying for position by hitting land drops and having the right answers to the right things in hand. Guillaume has properly ground away here, though, making sure that he played his Courser when he had a land drop available, which he hit, and also making sure that he played his Eidolon of Blossoms when he could actually resolve it. He plays Eidolon of Blossoms. He plays Courser here, plays a land, and has Eidolon of Blossoms sitting on top of his library. I think Unravel the Aether. This is always interesting because you get to get both of the cards, Zach.
Right, yeah, being able to shuffle it away when you see Eidolon on top. Eidolon would have been really good there, basically forcing the dissolve, but Reed effectively deals with two threats there. Not really, because it's not actual card advantage.
No, but it is. I mean, you know, that was his next draw, and he knew it, and he didn't want him to draw it, so he got to get that as a side effect. Wow.
Oh.
Psychic Intrusion.
That's a spicy one.
So,
and by one, I mean one of.
Yeah. So, Randy, what does this do here in this matchup?
It allows him to go look at his opponent's hand, which is nice. It allows him to get a card out of his opponent's hand, which is nice.
Or
and it
graveyard.
allows him to play that card. So it's card advantage and disruption all rolled into one spicy package.
Yeah, and you can get a card out of his graveyard, too, and it's really nice because these decks tend to kind of ping away at each other's hands, and a lot of things end up in the yard pretty quickly, just like they did in this game. And
that's a
now
good point.
He's really got some good options. Let's see what he takes.
He took a Hero's Downfall, I think.
That must be it, sitting on top of the library there. Yep.
And so that's pretty savage, because that means you basically just have a free removal spell whenever your opponent casts a threat, like Doomweight Giant.
All right, so here's Doomwake Giant, not doing the best possible thing. It's not killing any creatures, but hey, it's a 4/6 threat that's going to need to be dealt with. And Reed Duke wastes no time. He's going to immediately kill it with Hero's Downfall. Guillaume off the top of plays a Temple of Plenty, scries a card to the bottom, and passes the turn back. So we get to do this for a while. Wow, read the bones, though, for Reed Duke to help propel him forward. 2 lands get shipped to the bottom, and he draws 2 cards. His life total, very much a resource at this point of the game. He is not worried about going to 13 currently.
A little more pep in his step right now. He's sitting up a little straighter. He's acting a little faster.
He still has nothing, though, just passes the turn back.
I mean, he sort of has nothing, but I mean, he 2-for-1'd his opponent in each of the last 2 turns.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just wanting to keep open mana, to be able to, you know, dissolve if he needs to. No need to get in a hurry by casting Kiora.
Yeah, and this Brain Maggot is of no consequences, as Reed has multiple copies of Drown in Sorrow if he wants to get rid of it at any time.
A card that we have seen be really, really good out of CFB Pantheon's main deck is the couple of copies of Read the Bones.
Yes.
That just gives you a way in the mid-game to make sure that you power into 2 relevant spells, and it has been excellent in these mid-range matchups.
All right, so Drown in Sorrow is going to get a scry to the bottom, but Brain Maggot bites it. Are we going to see Kiora here?
There is a Hero's Downfall in Guillaume's hand. Reed might want to, he's still got the Dissolve in his hand, right? He might want to be trying to set up a turn where he can Kiora with Dissolve back up.
I think that's exactly what's going on. I think he wants to make sure he can Dissolve just in case anything gets out of control.
And Guillaume does not play Elspeth there.
And he just doesn't want to run Elspeth into the Dissolve.
Why didn't you play the Kiora? I know you have. Why did you leave mana untapped when you could have played Kiora?
Curiouser and curious.
Perhaps I don't want to play this. And yeah, and now Guillaume's, this is just the way Guillaume drew it up.
But Guillaume drew it up where Reed counters, and Reed did not counterspell that.
Exactly.
He says, I know exactly what's going on, and he's going to leave Dissolve up because he can't beat Elspeth currently.
Well, and this is a good old-fashioned war of attrition. Reed got his card off Kiora, so he's fine just making it into a 2-for-1. He's already 2-for-1 Guillaume with Psychic Intrusion. He's already 2-for-1 him with Read the Bones. You 2-for-1 your opponent enough, the game ends.
Backup Kiora makes that decision a little easier.
Still a sweet play from Reed Duke. Pass the turn back, and here we go again. And Reed, yeah, it's the same thing, just like you said, Zach. It's 2-for-1, 2-for-1. So Reed Duke just keeps creeping ahead of the attrition fight here. Tons of cards in hand.
No fight's as exciting as an attrition fight.
And here's another Psychic Intrusion. One in the main, I think they bring in some number out of the board, and there's that Elspeth. I'll take that.
Wow.
Reed Duke has double mana confluence sitting there. Doesn't even need to use him. Psychic Intrusion, really nice card. It's the closest thing that we've seen, I think, to saying, I take your card and I get to play it, right? Like, you don't get to hold it in your hand, but it's basically in your hand.
Yeah, it feels something. It feels similar. I mean, and definitely, you know, Wafo having a lot of discipline there to hold Elspeth can hardly play around a second Psychic Intrusion, but that was brutal.
Well, speaking of brutal, here's a Thoughtseize that's going to take the Banishing Light out of Guillaume's hand and really leave him naked against the onslaught of Elspeth tokens that is surely incoming.
With 3 mana untapped, too.
Exactly,
Thoughtseize away the only answer and still got to leave up Counterspell. Reed in firm control of this game.
This is kind of awesome to watch, too. I mean, Reed Duke is really doing nicely here. And now he even gets to follow up with Ashiok just to keep the pressure on a different axis. And Guillaume sees the writing on the wall and is going to scoop. We're going to get a game 3 here. Reed Duke playing for his first Pro Tour top 8. How many has Guillaume had?
He's playing for number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5.
And once we get to 5, that's when we're in very, very, very serious Hall of Fame consideration territory.
Why don't we jump over to Yuji Ichikara?
I feel like at
versus
5,
Jamie.
you have to have a reason not to vote for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we jump over to Jamie Park versus Yuji Ichikawa? Jamie Park's the one with the backwards cap there on the right-hand side of your screen. It looks like he has Kiora at 5. But what is Ichikara playing? He's got Perforos and his hammer plus Elspeth?
This is pretty reminiscent of the Todd Anderson, Brad Nelson version of the Naya deck, it looks like. They definitely have Porphyros. I know lots of people are running some number of Hammer of Porphyros, which contributes to Devotion in addition to allowing all your monsters to hit really hard right away.
Yeah, this is red-green Elspeth. It's just their take on red-green Elspeth.
I like the cleanliness of this deck. It's basically a bunch of 4-ofs, 1 Pelucranos, 2 Ajani, 1 Xenagos. And one of the big differences is just being 4 copies of Chain to the Rocks.
Yeah, the Porphyroses are in from the sideboard, as are the Hammers. By the way, Nam Sung Wook won that game 2. He defeats Pat Chapin. He is 1 handshake away. As long as he can get a draw next round, he'll be playing on Sunday.
Jeez, wow. It's been a great season for him. He could cap it here going into the next Pro Tour with a top 8. That would be fantastic.
Just thinking about the amount of damage Porphyros can deal right now, he definitely has 1 Hammer activation for 2 damage, so he can keep Kiora off of the ultimate if he wants to. The question is he going to try to do anything else? And is he going to try to set up an attack either to start dealing Jamie some damage or to get that Kiora off the board? I mean, even just activating the activated ability on Porphyros is really powerful when you have 3 small creatures out like he does right now.
I think he's going to activate the Hammer here.
Yeah.
Which should cap it, but that's fine. And in they go.
And did he deal 2 damage with Porphyros?
I don't know.
Seems like a relevant thing.
But he's going to pump everybody up. It certainly does seem like a relevant thing here.
Okay.
And Jamie Park has to extend the hand here. That must have been a lethal attack for Ichikawa as he says, good game, and shakes the hand. A tough loss there for Jamie. Now, where does that put Ichikawa?
Looking for a draw.
He's looking for a draw.
He's looking for a draw. He's hoping he gets paired against Nam Sung Wook or somebody else or Josh Utter-Leyton, somebody who wants to draw. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jamie Park, not out of it, 63.4% breakers. You know, don't know how many X and 4s are going to get in. Jamie is going to be happy that Pat Chapin is going to try Dream Crushing. Right? Yes. Pat Chapin is going to be in position to try to open up a spot for teammates like Jamie Park, potentially like Reed Duke if Reed loses.
I mean, there's just more tension in the air, more key critical results coming into the final round that I can remember in quite some time. A lot of people are going to have to play, and a lot of people are going to have the opportunity to play and try for a slot. I mean, it depends on pairings.
And, you know, none more important than for Reed Duke fans and or Guillaume Afotapa fans, because these guys are in Game 3 here, essentially playing for top 8 as we're in the penultimate round here in Pro Tour Journey into Nyx, and there's a Brain Maggot on turn 2 for Guillaume Afotapa, revealing a pretty stacked hand of Bile Blight, a few lands, Prognostic Sphinx. There's 2 Thoughtseize and a Read the Bones to reload after those Thoughtseizes have done their work. What a great hand here for Reed Duke. This is going to be a temporary Thoughtseize as Reed can grab that back whenever he feels the need.
I like the Reed shuffling his hand so that he won't give away any information when he draws a card.
Well, you look at why he took that second Thoughtseize. Waffle really leaning on the double Courser of Krufix in this hand. Without those, he's not doing anything for a while. So even if Reed gets that Thoughtseize back, he's not going to get it back in time to take one of Waffle's Coursers.
And it's really important because the removal spell that Reed happens to have in his hand is Bile Blight, which doesn't kill the Courser. He can get it back and kill the Maggot, but it's too slow, like you said, Zach. So interesting back and forth here, and Reed Duke has no shortage of answers in his deck for a Courser of Krufix, though.
This is such a big game.
I saw
Josh Utter-Leyton tweet. He was in the same situation record-wise. You know, next round is a big game.
He said it's not a big game.
Yeah, it sounds like Josh. Game 3, Guillaume looking for the top 8 that could easily push him into the Hall of Fame. Reed looking for finally the first top 8 and the points he needs to run up toward Player of the Year contention. Games of Magic do not get much bigger than this. Certainly not on Saturday. Oh, he drew Unravel the Ether.
There it is, one of the many answers that he has for Courser Krufix, and now he can take his time. He can kill that Brain Maggot with the Bile Blight whenever he feels like he wants to have a Thoughtseize in his hand, and especially whenever he feels like he wants to resolve something big, he can take a look at Guillaume's hand and see if the coast is clear or not.
And again, able to shuffle away that third courser of Krufix that he knew was on the top. That's the second time that shuffle ability has been extremely relevant this match.
Unravel the Aether has been doing great work for Reed Duke. And here's the Bile Blight. He wants to go right now for the Thoughtseize. So here it is. It's Doomwake Giant, a land, and Hero's Downfall, I believe.
Yep. Giant, right?
Giant's down. That would have hit the battlefield next turn, and that leaves Guillaume Wafo-Tapa with not a whole lot going on. Just Hero's Downfall and a land in his hand. The question is, what does Reed have going?
Scry to the top.
Scry to the top.
Scry to the top.
Bad news. Ooh, nice draw here for Guillaume Wafo-Tapa, though. He had just had one of those shuffled away, and now he gets a Courser Krufix back.
21.
Banishing Light on top. Gain life.
Look at Reed's hand, though.
Yeah.
I assume it's a land on top, given the 5-drop, 5-drop Read the Bones.
Oh, jeez.
12.
Or he's just figuring he can read for land.
I mean, Reed is just, Read the Bones is just so powerful in a matchup like
No,
this.
Reed's powerful, too.
Reed Duke, also a powerful mage. But every single time, it's just, several turns pass, people rip each other's hand apart, you're jockeying over Courser, and then you cast Reed, and suddenly your hand is just stacked for the rest of the game.
Go.
Huh, no land
Reed
drop.
does not hit a land drop here and passes back.
10.
Falls down
22.
to 10, he said.
So, I mean, we see why Reed kept the hand. I mean, Psychic Intrusion, Hero's Downfall, Unravel the Ether, in addition to those 2 Sphinges. So if he gets a 5th land, I mean, he's just completely live and can answer almost anything Guillaume puts together.
Swamp off the top on cue.
Ding. And there's Unravel the Aether to once again take care of a Courser of Krufix. And now Reed's just going to have to pass the turn back. So he's really waiting for things to get set up. He could have also played a Sphinx there if he wanted, but he wanted to make sure that Guillaume doesn't get any more value out of that Courser.
Yeah, and Reed is at 10 life, so you're at the point where you need to start thinking about protecting your life total. And it's like semi-annoying if, he has to discard and protect the Sphinx, because anything he discards is going to be relevant. Guillaume knows that because Reed's been missing land drops. So, he'd have to unnecessarily take 2 damage, just be more on the defensive than he'd want to be if he doesn't have cast a removal spell.
So Guillaume drew Doomwake Giant, but just passed the turn
Yeah,
back.
Reed had help dissolve mana. Reed had a very effective dissolve bluff. That's the other thing the Unravel the Ether does. It leaves up exactly dissolve mana.
Ah. So now he gets to just tap out for Prognostic Sphinx, but Guillaume is a turn behind here, and he's going to get the news from this Thoughtseize that there was no dissolve there. But there is some pretty nice stuff. Psychic Intrusion could be a big deal. The second Prognostic Sphinx is just great.
Yes.
Pretty big Thoughtseize, too, because he just gets raw cards out of Reed's hand, making it more difficult to protect those Prognostic Sphinx.
The information's valuable also.
Yep.
None of that deals with Prognostic Sphinx, though. Information cards, this is not good enough. And he's got a tough choice here between Psychic Intrusion and the second Prognostic Sphinx.
I think you have to take Intrusion just because you're holding Banishing Light, Hero's Downfall. And, I mean, how do you win a game if you get your Hero's Downfall stolen? I mean, you're just never going to resolve a threat. Whereas if you take...
How do you win a game if your opponent has 2 Sphinxes in play at this point?
Well, he's going to have 2 Sphinxes, but only 2 cards in hand. So theoretically, you can draw enough removal spells to at least get rid of 1. I mean, I agree. It's not looking good for you.
He does take the Intrusion.
All right, so Intrusion hits the graveyard here. Doomwake Giant hits the battlefield. Doomwake Giant's big. That's a 4/6 right there.
And Reed can't actually block the Doomwake Giant too successfully because if he does and Wafo-Tapa plays a Banishing Light, the trigger of the Doomwake Giant would actually be enough to finish off the Sphinx.
Good point.
Is a Banishing Light a May ability?
I am not
Well,
sure.
it can only target your opponent's stuff. You can never accidentally get forced to target your own things. It's sort of the fixed Oblivion Ring. Or fixed in the sense that R&D didn't want new players in particular to accidentally O-ring their own stuff.
And it also fixed the whole trigger shenanigans.
Exactly.
So.
Now a big draw now from Wafo-Tapa with Elspeth off the top. Again, Prognostic Sphinx designed to be able to handle Elspeth pretty well, but still a serious threat when Reed's sitting at 10 life.
Does Guillaume have a second white mana source?
Maybe not. Oh, wow.
I think I'm only seeing that one.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, yeah, Wafotop is limited on white mana.
Oh, brutal. All right, he's going to use...
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of this, by the way, over the course of the weekend, Randy. It's got to be annoying to burn a spell just to tap a creature for a turn.
Well, Guillaume used the Banishing Light on his own turn. Reed discarded a land, so he heroes Downfalls. I think he was figuring Reed was out of land.
And here's a huge Read the Bones. Again, we talked about raw card advantage versus the virtual card advantage that we've seen. And Reed Duke is getting ahead pretty far with these Read the Bones. Second one he's played this game. And now he's got 3 cards in his hand again.
Maybe we are supposed to start calling him the Bones.
Let's ask him what he thinks of that.
I have a prediction on the answer. We'll see later.
Being limited on white, I mean, you do not see these decks color constrained very often, but when it happens, it's just brutal.
It is brutal. Guillaume Wafotop pretty helpless here as Reed Duke closes closer and closer to potentially his first professional tour top 8.
14.
Guillaume Wafotop is the only thing standing in his way right now, and he can't cast Elspeth out of his hand. There's also a question of how good it is at this point anyway.
Right.
That is not a white mana source. It is a mana source, though. It's Temple of Malady, which is going to get him a scry, but it's starting to feel like he's too far behind potentially. Reed Duke's only at 8. And Guillaume's going to ship that card to the bottom, and that's also going to leave Kiora, the Crashing Wave, alive and well here.
A pretty important card in Reed's hand right now is actually Bile Blight. If Wafotop is somehow able to resolve that Elspeth, Duke can clean up the tokens basically whenever he needs to at instant speed.
And Duke also has the Dissolve in his hand, which is all but going to lock this up, as Guillaume Wafotop is going to have to come up with running perfect answers. I mean, does he even have things in his deck that are going to get him back ahead? Wow.
If he did, he doesn't anymore.
So 2 Elspeths and a Courser, and Guillaume Wafotop extends a hand. Reed Duke wins 2-1, and it looks like he's going to get his first Pro Tour top 8.
Yes, it does.
Wow, exciting stuff. I know that that fans of Reed at home are going to be really excited to see that, and a huge smile on his face down there. Welcome back to the booth, guys. Marcel Suglev, there's Randy Buehler, that's Zach Hill. Smile of relief, smile of joy. What did you read off of that?
All of the above. Yeah, he was a little tight. I mean, it's game 2, about halfway through game 2. When he started, got a 2-for-1, got another 2-for-1. You could tell. I mean, you could just totally tell from his body language. He knew he was taking control of game 2. It absolutely shifted. The weight just started coming off of his shoulders. Deep sigh, a very happy smile. He was also trying to be polite. I mean, Guillaume needed that win too. So, I mean, he was trying not to be obvious. He was trying to hold it in a little bit. And then, Rashad came over to ask for the interview, and, just the face lit up. The teeth came into the smile. That is a very happy Magic player right now.
I think that when we are ready for that interview, which will be in just a minute here, we're going to see some big smiles on Reed Duke. And I'm sure that Huey and Owen are standing over on the rail waiting for him as well. It's a big moment for him for sure. Guillaume's like, I remember my first top 8. I wish I felt like that right now. But, yeah, so great stuff. And we are going to have a word with Reed Duke very shortly here. And pretty exciting stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, I wish everyone at home could have seen the monitor on Reed's. I mean, it was just like radiant joy. For a big moment really for one of the most popular, most talented players in the game.
All right, let's see if he's still radiating joy. He's down in the feature match area with our own Rashad Miller.
Hi, I'm Rashad Miller, and I'm down in the feature match area with number 2 ranked player Reed Duke. And some would say, up until now, one of the best players to not have a Pro Tour top 8 just yet. So what I'd like to know is, what does it feel to get rid of that dubious stat?
It feels good. I'd rather be known for something that I have accomplished than something that I have not accomplished. But yeah, I really don't know what to say. I mean, I've played Magic for 19 years. This is my 14th Pro Tour. It's like all I could think about was making top 8, and at times it felt like it was never going to come, and just speechless.
All right, so this was a very diverse format. And I know that, you're a part of a big super team, and, you have your own gauntlet. Was there anything that you experienced and constructed that surprised you that you all didn't come up with?
Well, I haven't run into any decks that like completely knocked me off my feet in terms of being a surprise. However, I certainly had some misjudgments about, the overall metagame. I thought a lot more people would show up with the monocolor aggro decks, mono black, mono white, mono red. And I was surprised to face so many slower, grindier, honestly more challenging matchups throughout the tournament.
Now, there's a bit of a family affair here because your brother's in attendance. So how's it feel to finally get a top 8 with your brother here to see it happen live?
My brother's been with me through everything. When we started playing when I was 5 years old, when I attended my first Pro Tour, he was playing there also. So it means a lot.
Most important card so far this weekend?
Well, Prognostic Sphinx, but we knew that was going to be the case going in. I'd say the card that's most overperformed for me is probably Ashiok Nightmare Weaver.
All right, there you have it. That's number 2 ranked player Reed Duke looking to get up to number 1 with this Pro Tour top 8. I'm Rashad Miller. I'm going to send it back to the booth.
All right, thanks, Rashad. You could tell.
Oh, yeah.
He was emotional. He's a little starry-eyed there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I bet you he's running over to get his hugs and his high fives right now. Why don't we send it over to Richard Hagan at the news desk. When we come back, we got one more round of Swiss here from Atlanta. Don't go anywhere.
If anyone ever tells you that it doesn't matter, play them that interview with Reed Duke. That was pretty wonderful. Congratulations to him. A bit starry-eyed in the news desk, to be honest. Let's talk you through where I think we are. Patrick Chapin, 39 points into the top 8, even though he lost to Nam Sun-wook of Korea. 36 points, should be able to intentionally draw in the last round into the top 8. That's 2 in the top 8, pairings permitting. Table 2 was Yuki Ichikawa of Japan against Jamie Park of the United States. Yuki Ichikawa wins that, goes to 36 points. He'd be number 3 in the top 8, assuming he draws the next round. Table 3 was Reed Duke up against Guillaume Wafatapa. Reed Duke, of course, wins that, goes to 36 points, 4 in the top 8, if he gets to draw next round. Wafatapa stuck on 33 with 1 round to go. Table 5 has just come in. It was Ben Friedman against Andrea Mengucci of Italy. Mengucci wins, 36 points, the 5th person into the top 8, if he can ID next round. Finally, Stanislav Sivka was on 34, Yuya Watanabe was on 31. It was Sivka who advanced. Sivka went to 36. Watanabe is gone for certain on 31 points. Sivka can be in with a draw in the next round. By my reckoning, Chapin 39, Nam Sun-wook 36, Yuki Ichikawa 36, Reed Duke 36, Josh Utter-Leyton 36, Andrea Mengucci 36. Going into the last round, they will be the only 6 players on 36 points or better. And what that means is that the players, as we thought all along, 1 or 2 players who are currently on 33, 11 and 4, can still keep the dream alive with 1 round to go. So who are these 33 pointers? Well, they include, this is not exclusive because there are still tables coming in, but Jamie Park, 33 points. Guillaume Wafatapa, 33. Jared Boettcher, 33. Then you have Carlos Morale, who beat Raf Levy this round to go to 33. Joel Larson defeated Andrew Beckstrom, so Larson is alive on 33 points. Chris Fennell, looking for back-to-back Pro Tour top 8s, is on 33. Stu Summers defeated Josh Taylor to go to 33. And Tom Martell, whose maths tell him it won't be good enough, he again is up to 11 wins, 33 points. Scott Markison is done at 30. Still a couple of results to come in, but the top fundamental issue will not change. Chapin 39, Nam Sun-wook 36, Ichikawa 36, Reed Duke 36, Utter-Leyton 36, Mengucci 36, Sivka 36. 6 players, barring strange happenings with pairings, will be in. And then we will bring you the bun fight to end all bun fights in round 16 for those last 2 slots. Who had the best tiebreakers coming in? Well, Joel Larson is in pretty good shape for that potentially. Guillaume Waffatapper, of course, lost that round, so his tiebreak's pretty good. Jamie Park, perhaps Waffatapper, Jamie Park, Joel Larson, they would be my 3 favourites coming into the last round for 2 slots. But we're going to just calm down for a few minutes, because we're delighted to say we've been joined by a Hall of Famer at the video wall. He's got a tremendous constructed deck to tell you all about. So here's Brian David Marshall with Raf Levy.